Welcome to Philly Tech Connect podcast, where Philly's tech minds meet. CEOs, developers, dreamers. This is your space. Each week, we explore the journeys of tech innovators. Join us and be inspired.
Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Connect podcast. Today I'm speaking with Chris Feamster, a true innovator in business and technology. Chris is the founder and CEO of Nexus Systems Incorporated. He has over 20 years of experience in cloud computing, IT integration, business strategy, and he's built Nexus Systems into a leader in the autonomous governance, enterprise transformation, digital innovation. He also has Nexus Educational Services Association, providing software and services to the education sector. He's passionate about using technology to drive business efficiency, and he's here to share insights on embracing automation, the future of tech-driven strategy, and building resilient organizations. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Glad to meet you, Dave.
Yeah, you too, man. Chris, tell me a little bit about your background and how you got started with Nexus Systems.
Sure. It was interesting. I think of my story as kind of being dyed in the wool, kind of your typical nerd. Nexus has been around for 20 years, but even before that, just kind of was steeped in technology and just loving jumping into it. And I can even trace it back further than that. My dad came up on those big iron machines and used to bring stuff home and show it to his young, impressionable kid. And I think it was no surprise to him his kid turned out to be a giant nerd and ended up knowing that I wanted to do something with technology and actually ended up starting Nexus to do something that was actually different from what we were doing today. We've been around for 20 years, but we actually started out just doing building computers. We're a system builder and staying with that and being attentive to what people were asking for and being attentive to shifts in the market. We started pressing into professional services, started pressing into software development and system architecture, and pressing into really seeing how we can be the strategic differentiate, the strategic difference maker for our clients, which is in a nutshell what brings us to today.
Very cool. I'm always really impressed, to be operating 20 years in technology because it changes so often. I run a digital marketing agency. We're about 6 years old, and I have, concerns about being able to kind of keep up with trends and changes and things like that. How has Nexus kind of evolved over time? Were there any inflection points and things where you say, hey, we need to really introduce some new services or make some changes to the way we do things?
Absolutely. If you don't change, you die, right? The only constant in life is that it will not be the same. So definitely, even as simple as saying that when we first started out, we were really hardware focused. But even at that time, this would have been early 2000s, early aughts, computers were becoming more commoditized. That beige box was becoming a bit just your standard black box, but just as much commoditized. And it became a thing of either we're just going to be a retailer or we really start to listen to folks who are coming to us with other concerns and other problems. That first lesson of what is your clientele? What's your market asking you to do? Is that something you can do? Meet that need. And that was really the first example of that key inflection point. Fast forward over the years, we've had times where we were pressing into just general system architecture and we started to get into software development, started building a team for that so that we would be able to bring holistic solutions to bear. So if a client's asking for a complete package, we're able to meet that need. Fast forwarding even further, there are times where your standard IT companies out there, full stack IT, sure, able to break fix, able to speak to that architecture, speak to that stack. We found that again, part of our niche, part of the conversations we kept having were, hey, Chris, how can your firm help me with this? How can we fix this problem? How can we recover from where we are? So we found ourselves being able to pivot from just, hey, we just do managed services and we can build these solutions to let's give some strategic advice. Let's talk about the not just the technological solutions, but the vision you're trying to achieve with your company. What is it that you really want to do? You need people, processes, technology to achieve your enterprise's vision. Allow us to take care of one leg of that and meet you where you want to go.
Yeah, I love that. And it makes perfect sense when you say it, but I always feel, in practice it is difficult, right? Because, we're talking about skills that maybe at the time you don't have or they're not totally polished. And so is that difficult to learn enough about software to be able to, incorporate that into your services offering, to be able to hire that, that skill set in your organization, manage them, was that, is that a challenge to basically not just be able to, change your business with trends, but then to kind of upskill or learn these skills to be able to support it?
Well, absolutely. That is definitely a challenge. One that I believe we've been able to manage, but definitely one that requires some intentionality. One of the things that we try to do here is we believe in teaming. We like partnering up with other IT firms and other professionals in our sector and our spaces so that we can ultimately build our bench out. So that we may have in-house talent and an in-house pool, but no one's going to know everything, especially with the rapidly changing pace of technology. So the first opportunity we have to be able to lay down the pride and be able to say, you know what? Let's collaborate. Let's connect. Let us actually be able to share some of the business that we have, share some of the knowledge, share some of the pools, and use that to bring that to bear to ultimately being able to serve our clients, not just as our way or the highway, but let's see who we can bring in to really be able to meet this need, to be able to figure out something that we might have given us a little bit of friction, but we have this resource, we have this community, we have this bench that is able to knock that out the park. Let us all come together and see how we can solve this for this client.
Talk to me a little bit about automation because I think a lot of businesses they don't even know what problems they have. Sometimes they're not even aware sometimes that they are doing something inefficiently or slowly. They're not even aware about things that could be automated that they're doing. And so do you find, businesses, that they come to you and say, "Hey, we need the solution. We're spending a lot of time on this," or are they looking for some sort of consulting and audit to kind of understand where opportunities for automation are? And then, at the end of the day, are we measuring success by time saved or, how do you kind of think about it?
Yeah, yeah, that's an excellent question. So, Dave, I would say that as folks come to us, that there's a spectrum of that ask. Sometimes it's we have this process issue. Can we improve our platform? And through our analysis, there may be a genuine opportunity for automation. Let's talk about changing up that process and how much of that process can be adopted by the platform we can build for you, the platform we can install for you, rather than just a minor optimization. Sometimes it may be the other side of that, and that's really where we have to press into being, trusted advisors, being that strategic consultant, be able to say, well, you have a little too much of this automated. You're putting a lot of burden on the system, you're putting a lot of trust on this system. And honestly, if you're able to put a human in the loop here, you might find that the error rate of this system may drop because you are able to give this a little bit of oversight. As much as we are technologists, we don't necessarily want to shoehorn that into every place where that doesn't make sense.
That's really interesting. So you're saying there are scenarios where the recommendation might actually be to take a step back from technology and maybe put in a human being to reduce like the error rate or something like that.
Indeed.
Wow, very cool. AI, how this is probably one of the more recent trends as we talk about, earlier, we talked about being in business for a long time and dealing with inflection points and things like that. I have to imagine AI is probably one of the more recent ones for you guys. How are you seeing it impact your industry?
Fantastic question. So we find that it's a massive impact. There are opportunities and projects coming and going all over the place. And this has been a more or less constant ebb and flow for the past, I guess, maybe going on 2 years now. It's a scenario we haven't quite seen since I'd say probably the rise of the cloud, where every day it practically seems like there's a new shift here. But it really causes us to kind of take a step back and look at the 10,000-foot view and say, so what's the through line here? What's the real story here that we can bring value, that we can bring some analysis, that we can really press in here on this AI piece. And one of the things that caused us to be able to one of the things that caused us to really be able to go back and react with some intentionality is to look at that through line through AI. We've had AI for years. We've had machine learning for years. We've had autonomous systems for years. The real watershed moment is accessibility. No longer are some of these systems confined to, say, the smoky boardrooms of old, or AI labs or the Fortune 100. But now everybody can have a rich automated assistant, a rich language model in their hands. And the question becomes, what's the thing that is as important for those folks as it is for everybody now? And we find that being able to ensure that these systems are being used with intentionality, ensuring that these systems are being used as a supplement to human agency and not as a replacement for it, is one of the keys here. So that is how one of the ways we're able to continue to leverage our mission of providing that strategic guidance, providing that strategic guidance, providing that strategic vision, and being able to show folks this is how you can implement some of these AI projects without them turning into the ERP boondoggles of the past,
I would hypothesize that sort of this boom of AI would be beneficial to the industry that you operate in, which was about automation, IT integration, et cetera. And the reason I think that is because when do people think about wanting to improve their processes, wanting to, automate things, is when there's some change that happened that they know they haven't actually incorporated into their business. So my assumption is, AI is making companies go, well, we need to make sure that we have properly incorporated this into our systems and processes. And because we don't fully understand it, we need a professional. Am I wrong? Is there a darker side of AI in your industry where you're seeing it's not all, roses?
So I wouldn't say a darker side. I'd say there's a bright white side and there's a little bit more polka dot side from time to time. And I find that's one of the things that has driven us to really to plant our flag and say we're going to speak to this, to implementing these systems strategically, implementing some governance around these systems. And to that end, we've actually created a new brand called Cognify. And that is one of the ways of which we really believe in helping folks who are implementing some of these AI systems be able to implement them in a way that's responsible, implement them in a way that's sustainable, and implement them in a way that has some more proper controls over them. Because when we're actually able to sit down and say, we're not saying stop, we want to slow down and think about this, ensure that we're implementing this responsibly, that's when you start making sure you don't have AI systems that are telling folks to put super glue in their pizza, or being implemented at a financial firm and bringing back redlining because there was bias in the data. It's important to be able to add a little bit of thought, a little bit of intentionality, and we can go that much further. It's a lot easier to drive a car down the road when you turn your headlights on and bring a map, rather than driving down 90 miles per hour in the dark.
Gotcha. Chris, for people that want to learn more about you, Nexus Systems, Cognify, where should they go?
Well, I'd say probably one of the best places to just take a look at us and connect would be nxs.systems. That's the main website for Nexus Systems. Cognify is currently, we just launched that on governanceforai.us, and even on LinkedIn, where we're trying to build a little bit of community, because we're definitely about making sure we're bringing all those voices in to a new and important space like this.
Great. Thanks so much for being on the show and having this chat with me today.
Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it.
That's all for today's episode of Philly Tech Connect. Join our community at phillytechentrepreneurs.com. Special thanks to our sponsor, shortlist.io, a digital marketing agency specializing in top-notch link building, content strategy, and web design. Stay innovative, Philly, and see you next time on Philly Tech Connect.